Witness one here. You see, the gang stalkers, they're going to get what they got coming to them. You know what I'm saying? Example. I've been doing videos on that Croc Center over there, Salvation Army. And across the ways, I did a video, if you look back, called Fusion Centers. I had a video way back in last spring, a year ago. And I showed the UPS and the fire truck, the fire station across the road from it. You know, they're all of them, UPS, Amazon, FedEx, USPS, all of them, they're gang stalkers. The mailman walking down the road will stalk the shit out of you. Even the one walking, putting the mail in. They had this system set up a long time ago. It's just so obvious and in plain sight that people miss it. You know what I'm saying? If it's not happening to them. And there's so many people involved that, you know, the whole thing is occultic. Everything is, you know. The whole school system, the government, the cops, everyone's involved in this occult, this human trafficking, the sacrifice of people and all that. That's how evil and wicked this nation is. Everyone's involved in it, and it's been like that since a long time. Since Hitler, World War II, they really, Satan and the government and all of them, they went really hardcore into the occult. And that's what you're seeing now. So that fire station across the way from the Croc Center, I did a little short video on it, called it Desperate Gang Stalkers, and you can see it's closed. And then I did if you look back a year ago and see that was open, they were stalking me over there. But what happened is, I read about this last summer when I was up in the woods, was somebody lured them cops out. They started a fire out on the mountain over here somewhere, and the cops came over there, and he shot them, killed 2 of them, and wounded one so bad that he could never do it again no more. And they covered it up. You can look it up, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and you'll see that those guys were lured out and shot and killed. And, you know, he'll do that. God will take care of them fools, and he'll lay them out like that. But they won't stop, because, you know, I got all these other, the next set over doing the same thing. They won't ever quit. And they cover it all up. The funny thing is they cover it all up, and, you know, with, there was a tragedy or whatever. But there's some really bad things going to come to this town. This town is a wicked, and this one in Missoula. Very bad. I suspect and project very, very bad things are going to happen, and it's going to happen to the people who are in charge of this, the cops and the helicopter, the hospitals and the schools and all that stuff. And, you know, it's going to happen. I went down to the store the other day, and the Masons were gang stalking me pretty hard, and they wouldn't. I was trying to buy something at the store, but they denied my card and said it wasn't working and laughed at me. But then I went there yesterday, and that same woman that did that to me and denied it, the card was doing it on purpose. She looked like somebody had picked her up and thrown her down 5 flights of steps. You should have seen her. She had the biggest black eye I'd ever seen on a human being in my life. Black and blue everywhere. And when she saw me, she was like, oh shit, you know, she knew. She knew. To see these gang stalkers, these Eastern Star bitches, and even the little kids, they use little kids all the time. They're everywhere. This whole town is filled with them. I was working with a guy the other day on a job. I knew it was a setup, because every job's a setup. And he told me he was a Mason. Well, you should have seen his car. You see, they got these people who are Masons, but they're so, you know, 30 years ago, if you were a Mason, 40 years ago, you had something. You weren't just poor. You were getting hooked up by them. Financially, things went your way, all kinds of things. And nowadays, they'll use it. They're so poor, they're living in the freaking cars, man. The Masons. I've never seen a bunch of more poor Masons trying so hard to get something than the ones I've seen on the West Coast over there in Seattle and Portland. And they have got to where it's not a secret society anymore. It's it's just a club that, you know, that with hardly any benefits. It has nothing. because these guys, they got nothing, and it's just stupid, But God will pay them back eventually. I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've seen ones that said, "Dennis, you cursed me and I'm cursed." It's like, yeah, you cursed. You damn right, you cursed. And a curse is funny how it works. It might take a long time to get to them, or it might take a short amount of time. They might see the repercussions right away. But mostly it takes about a year, I noticed. About a year, everything starts crumbling. Their relationships, their finances, they start struggling and struggling and struggling. And they know it's you because, that kind of stuff follows us around. Now, if you don't think it's scriptural to curse anyone, look at Elijah cursing them boys that made fun of his bald head. A man and a woman of God can bless you or they can curse you. Look at David writing the Psalms. Look at up Psalm 109. He is cursing them. Read the Psalms real slow and you will see David was cursing them people that were cursing him. He was cursing it back and taking it back on and let it fall back on top of their heads. He was reversing the curse. Now, I seen a witch on a converted, so-called converted witch, and she said that doesn't work. But the fact of the matter is they know that return to sender works. That's one of their laws in the curse. They know it can come back on them if they do it. And we are masters at sending that stuff back to them. I do it all the time, and it works. So, if that's all you got, then that's what you use. They all deserve death, immediate gut shot, and let them sit there and rile on the ground, gut shot, and die a slow, horrible death. But, you got to be real careful how you move out here. This is for entertainment purposes only. So, keep in mind that, it's pretty much everyone. Everyone's involved. Yeah. They'll recruit the mentally handicapped. See that housing there? Well, there's housing on the other side of that housing. I think you can kind of see it. No, it's on the other side. Anyway, that's where they house all the mentally handicapped people. And they use them. They love to use the mentally handicapped people. Them guys are full of spirits. Let me tell you, they ain't mentally handicapped. They're just so full of spirits. They function and act all strange and weird. And there's a guy over there. They all got free housing and everything they need, free thing. And I was working over there in those a couple of years ago in those apartment buildings, doing some work for temp service. Putting in washers and dryers and, doing this and doing that. Look, K27 right there. That's code for the cops around here. They all say it's for a cop that got killed, but it isn't. It's code everybody who rides around with K27 on their car. I've seen this in another city too, K27. It's code for COINTEL program. Well, I'm involved with the COINTEL program is what they're saying. So, anyways, and over there in those apartment buildings I was working at, I was doing all kind of maintenance work and stuff through the temp service, making some money. They had mentally handicapped people there, but man, they were all involved in that gang stalking. They were good at it too. The mentally handicapped people. But I was helping this one guy move out because they were doing remodels. They would move them out of one apartment and remodeled it and then move them back in, so that I was helping them move out of their one apartment and put their stuff in another apartment. But the one guy, he was like 5-6 years old in his mind. Check this out. He was 5 or 6 years old, but he had a car and a license and insurance and would drive around. He was collecting Hot Wheels, and he would play with them like a 5 or 6 year old kid in his house and play with all this stuff that he collected, all these collectible things he had. And he was just 5 or 6 years old, yet they gave him housing, food, and money to buy a car and a driver's license to drive it around. A 5-year-old, he was a grown man, body-wise, but in his mind, he couldn't read. They just allowed him. There's no way he could have passed the exam to get a driver's license, but they gave it to him. You see what I'm saying? This is a stupid world we live in. They allowing 5-year-old children in their mind cars to drive around in. And that gives you an idea of who they will use and recruit and put up in housing, and people who got places to live. And see, all the rest of these people too, they're doing it. I got gang stalked over by the Dollar Tree yesterday, and by a mom and her kid. They were swarmed the place when I pulled up to the Dollar Tree. It's like, and you know, they need us. My friend Ryan, there, he said we were sacrifices. He's right. They done sacrificed us to one of their gods, and so they're trying to kill us, and they have been for years. You know, if you look back in your life, it's like I'll never forget when I was 7 years old down in Texas. I went down to the local Baptist church, got saved, but a couple days later, this storm came, right? And it was a tornado, and we were living in a trailer house, and my little sister just was born, and she had her intestines, she didn't grow the muscles in her stomach, so her intestines were outside of her stomach. They were just like, so she had to go into a surgery. And I remember at nighttime I'd go in there when nobody was around. It was so hot in Texas. Oh, you can't imagine the heat. And it was so hot I couldn't sleep. I'd go in there and I'd pray for little Sarah while she was in her little crib by herself in there, because I was so worried about her. But this storm came right after that. That's how I knew about the weather. Satan was after me with the weather and the government and all that. And this literal tornado, you know, came down and touched about half the distance in between here and that building where I'm at right now. I saw it literally. It was half the distance there. About there, I saw a tornado come down, land. It blew out all the windows inside the trailer house. I'll never forget, I put my mom and the kids in a corner and threw mattresses over them, and it blew out all the windows in the trailer house because we didn't open them up because the pressure was so great. And I looked out the window at it while they were covered up, and it was that close, and it was alive. It hit the power lines and the transformers, and just they blew, and they were blue and green and red and orange lights coming off of it. And I remember that thing. I remember thinking that tornado, it was alive, because it would breathe. It would stop for a second, go, and then it would and rage out, and it would move, and then it'd stop again and go and gain more energy. And I was like, man, that thing's alive. Holy cow, you know, that impressed me. And, you know, this thing, it just lets you know that this battle we're in is real. It's alive, and, you know, it's powerful. I think that tornado came for me, you know, because it was only a few days after I got saved at 7 years old. So that's the story. And that's what happened. But you'll get paybacks. If you stick around, you never know. It might not be an instant payback, or it might be. But it really sucks because there's so many people involved, but they're never going to stop. They're never going to stop. They're going to keep coming. Just like when it says they'll go into the caves and the holes in the rocks and say to the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. They're not going to stop. They're still going to pray to their rocks. They're still going to talk to them and be in the occult and be scared to death of God. And they're going, please talk and pray to the rocks to fall on them. They won't help so bad to kill them. But it ain't going to happen. because they ain't alive. But that just shows you how dumb and ignorant these occult people are. They're so deceived and so ignorant that they'll still pray to their rock. They're so scared of the wrath of the Lamb and his glory that they'll try to hide themselves from. There's no hiding from God, dude. You know, already know that. And then they'll still be praying to their rocks, and they'll still be talking to them, their gods and their stuff, and they'll never repent. And that's it for now. Have a good one.